Her name is Bee, and she's going to talk about Jack Jack.
So this is Jack Jack. Our story actually ends with Jack Jack, but our story begins with my dog Odin, who I had previously. Odin, we've already had an Odin. My Odin was not one-eyed, but he came with very many complications. I rescued him from, my brother had actually initially adopted him at the age of about 3 months, and I ended up rescuing him at 4 because my brother and his wife were just unable to care for him. Odin had a lot of really unpredictable and aggressive behavior. I'd known him since he was a pup, so I ended up inheriting their house and their dog, which actually was a blessing in disguise for me. It was a very difficult first few years, honestly. There were times I took him to vets. There were vets that told me, I've never seen a dog like this before. We tried antipsychotics. We tried a lot of different things. Nothing seemed to work. I really thought that he was not going to be able to stay with me. And we tried to adopt him out, and it wasn't happening. So eventually, I just couldn't let him go. And I took him to Portland with me. I'm originally from Port Townsend, Washington, and I moved here about 12 years ago. So Odin, I came first. Odin came a little bit later because my parents were trying to convince me, don't keep this dog. But I'm ever so glad that I did. Odin, he had a really rough transition. He never really seemed to settle down. He always had he just had a lot of abandonment issues. And over the course of the first 9 years of us being in Portland, we moved around a lot. And it seemed like every house that we moved to, Odin opened up a little bit more and felt a little bit more comfortable until the point where he really did just settle, and he actually became the dog that I thought he always could be. Mostly, I believe, because of the fact that he knew I was not going to abandon him anymore. I also credit raw food. It was kind of amazing. I had never considered it before, and when I did give him the raw food diet, initially I had started because of skin issues, and I was amazed at the behavior change that I saw in him once we started feeding him raw food, and so once I saw that, I could never go back. Fortunately, Odin, even though he shouldn't have made it past 4, he had an accident at age 7 that almost put him down as well, but fortunately, Odin made it to the ripe old age of 15, and which most people said he was never even going to make it past 11, so very proud of that. And it was really hard letting him go. We did have to eventually make that decision at 15, and it was not easy, as everyone here knows. We did have another cat named Hodor at the time, and it only took me about a month after putting Odin down to decide that I needed a kitten. So I went out and got our kitten, Mira, and Hodor and Mira bonded pretty much immediately. They have been super tight and close to each other ever since. As soon as Mira came into our house, Hodor and Mira were chasing and snuggling and bathing, mostly Mira doing the bathing. And it was amazing to have these two because I never thought, I'm not much of a cat person, so I didn't really think it was gonna work or that I was gonna like it so much, but I really did. So fast forward to about a year later, I kind of decided, all right, it's been a year, I really feel like I still need a dog in my life. I really haven't I had dogs all my life growing up. Eventually, we kind of got introduced to Pixie, we did get introduced to Pixie Project through my very best friend, Magina, who I grew up 2 blocks away from in Port Townsend, Washington. So we've known each other since we were 6 years old. And she ended up volunteering at Pixie Project first when she was going through vet tech school, and now works there full time as a vet tech. And she's great. So Magina introduced us to the Pixie Project, and eventually, I just remember this one day, she posted, I had kind of thought about the idea of fostering before, but had never really, I just kind of had some iffy feelings about it, but she posted something on Facebook about Pixie Project needing fosters for dogs, and I thought, all right, now's the time. And so we went ahead and did it. It took it was like, remember there's like the apocalyptic eclipse that happened last year. My partner Johnny and I were camping at Crater Lake, and literally the day that we came back from Crater Lake, we went to Pixie. We picked up our first foster dog, Corky Romano. He was a 2-year-old Min Pin mix. He was pretty incredible, but also a little difficult. Our first month went pretty smoothly, but at some point, once the weather changed, Corky decided that outside was not his deal. And so we kind of had some trouble getting him to go potty outside. And fortunately, we reached out to Pixie, and they were able to bring in a trainer to our house that helped us work with Corky and got him outside, and we were able to kind of work with that, get him to go potty, getting him to go on walks. That was kind of getting a little bit better. It still took a little while for us to find his perfect family, but as soon as they came, it was like done. Even when they saw his picture, they were like, this is our dog. The minute they walked in the house, they just started crying. I'm very happy to say that his name is now Rocket and that he is living a very spoiled life and doing extremely well. Unfortunately, there is a mutual connection. There was a mutual friend involved, so we do get to keep in contact with the owners of Rocket. And it was about holiday time, right before Rocket went to his new home. So we kind of took a little bit of a break for the holidays, and then when we were done in January, maybe it was February, we might have waited a little bit longer. Anyways, point being that we ended up with Cecil, who you will hear much more about later. But when we first got Cecil, he's a little Lhasa Apso. He's about 2 years old. And we took him into our house, and the first hour, I remember my partner being like, I don't know that this is going to work. He was chasing our cats. He was barking at them. He was super, I'm a therapist, so I will use the term hypervigilant. He was very, like, noises, anxiety, what is happening? I don't know what's going on. I have to bark and protect and do all this stuff. So we did a lot of positive reinforcement with him, which helped. Especially, again, being a therapist, I was like, oh, positive reinforcement. I also know Pixie likes that, so let's do that. Unfortunately, it wasn't really enough. We ended up reaching out again to Pixie. They ended up bringing out Denise, a dog trainer, to help us with kind of training Cecil to not react so much to the cats, which did help tremendously. And once Denise came and met with Cecil, we decided he was ready for adoption. He went up on the website, and pretty much immediately, I got a message that I needed to call Paul, that they were ready to take him. And again, as soon as Paul and Arnell walked into our house, I could just tell. I was like, this is it. Like, Cecil has found his people. There is no way that he needs to stay here. He is going with them, and he's going to be so much happier. And it definitely seems like he is. It was a little hard for us to let him go, but because he was a lot of fun, even though he turned out, at first we were questioning it, but we really did love Cecil a lot, so it's nice to be able to keep connection with Paul and Arnell and see him sometimes if we need to. But after Cecil left, I'm a grad student. I was about to start internship, so I was kind of like, I don't know that I should start fostering again quite yet. So I took a little bit of a break, but then internship was just like taking longer and longer to get set up. Like there was all this paperwork stuff that wasn't happening, and I was getting really bored. So I was like, hey, let's add a dog to the mix, because that's going to make it all better. So I decided to foster again. I looked at the Pixie website, and immediately I saw Winnie's picture. Winnie was a Beagle Lab mix who was about 50 pounds, and she was about 8 years old. She used to be a service dog who had been owned by a veteran who ended up becoming houseless and needed to surrender his dog. So we were fortunate enough I immediately, as soon as I saw her picture, I was like, this is my ideal foster dog. When I started fostering, I thought, I had such a great time with Odin in his later years that I was like, I just really want to be able to give that love to bigger, older dogs that may not have it. And so Picked her up. She didn't really want to go in the car. She was very skittish. Getting her even the half block from Pixie's door to my truck was a bit of a challenge. But as soon as we got her home, she really warmed up to us. She was one of the sweetest dogs I had met almost in my, pretty much my entire life. She was also an extremely good listener. If it hadn't have been for just where I was at the time and her age, I probably would have adopted her right off the bat. But I also knew that she was pretty skittish, and I wanted to be able to take my dog out places, because having my previous dog, Odin, and not being able to take him anywhere because I couldn't trust him with anyone or anything, I decided that Winnie was probably going to be better off with somebody else. Fortunately, an older lady from St. Helens ended up coming, and she came with her daughter to meet Winnie, and Again, it was pretty much magic from the minute that they walked in the door. Winnie ended up going with mother and daughter out to a farm in St. Helens and is living a wonderful life out with a bunch of horses and other animals, and she's able to have lots of room to roam. So very happy about that. It was pretty difficult letting go of her, as most of my fosters are, but I knew that there was something else coming around the corner. And that something else happened to be Jack Jack. So let's see, it was around my birthday, so the end of June, I had emailed, or mid-June, I had emailed Pixie Project and was like, I'm ready to adopt. I need a dog, I need a permanent dog, this is what I'm looking for. And Beth emailed me back and was like, we've got this amazing little guy named Jack Jack, you should totally come check him out. So we totally did, and he totally was not interested in us for the first, basically the entire time we were at Pixie. We got into the room, he went into the corner, he had his tail between his legs, he was not about to come hang out with us. It took a lot of coaxing, but as soon as we got him home, similar to Winnie, he just opened up, and I can't even describe to you how amazing it has been to have him in my life. He has been the most adaptable, well-behaved dog I've ever had, and I can trust him in absolutely any situation. I take him to dog parks all the time. He goes on patios. He's a really great listener. He's the perfect size. He's just this kind of little, but not so little. I don't know. I have a harder time with dogs that I feel like I'm going to step on, which is so he's the perfect size for us. He loves going on adventures. He gets along really great with the cats. He's not quite so interested in the cats, but the cats are very interested in him, which is uncharacteristic for Hodor particularly, but Hodor seems very attached to Jack Jack, actually. And Jack is now kind of starting to warm up to snuggles and stuff with the kitties, which has been really sweet to watch. But most importantly, as a grad student, I'm currently interning at a residential treatment facility for adolescent females with eating disorders, and my work is difficult, to say the least, and self-care is extremely important. And self-care does not just mean bubble baths and face masks and things like that. It also means, for me at least, going to the river with my dog, taking my dog places, being able to be outside. I really connect with nature, and fortunately Jack seems to too. So we've gone on many adventures this summer, and it's been amazing, and I can't tell you how beneficial that has been for my own mental health and allows me to serve my clients much better, because I'm taking care of myself better, because my dog is taking care of me. So that's been really amazing, and I can't thank Pixie enough for everything that they do. This is probably the part where I'm going to get emotional. I think the thing that I value the most about Pixie is the work and the effort that they put into trying to find the right home for the right dog or the right cat, the right animal. The first question people ask me when they hear that I foster is, how do you do that? That's got to be so hard to have an animal and then let it go. And quite honestly, the one thing that makes it so easy is the fact that every adopter that's walked into our house, I knew that that was the best placement for that animal. And so I can't thank Pixie enough for all of the work that they do in putting all that time and effort into making sure that animals and humans are being placed in the right situations, because I think it's really magical. So, thank you.